0. Hello everyone, this is Rexer of the YouTube and Twitch channel NotQuiteThereGaming, bringing you another Warframe guide. And of course, getting back into this sort of content, I am going to do a guide for another Warframe that I find very close to my heart, that I use a lot and that I would consider maybe easier to talk about than other Warframes. And we're talking about Nyx. Nyx is, along with Loki, I would say, one of my main Warframes. Like, I always just go either Nyx or Loki, and other Warframes have a very I'm struggling to find the right word. I don't use them that much until I get tired of them. Let's put it like that. Why is that? Well, Nyx is really powerful. Nyx is really great looking. And she brings a lot of options to the table that are very good for endgame content and even easier stuff. And we're going to talk about that today. First of all, bobbleheads all over the place. And yes, I do support Steel Meridian, Cephalon Suda, and Arbiters of Hexes. Let's get into the build though. As I was trying to establish the format last time, we're going to talk about the mods first. Then we're going to talk about Nyx's abilities and how I would suggest that you use them, in case you just want the build. First off, Nyx is a crowd control Warframe, but she actually can do shitloads of damage with Absorb these days. So with that in mind, let's go into the build. Everything on display. Please do not take what you're seeing here as the must-have Forma build. I will try to post that into the comments, no, not the comment section, into the description of the YouTube video. I will try to either get a permanent Warframe Builder page or just spell it out in letters, so you have that. But the mess I have with polarities right now is because of all the changes to the ability system and stuff I have been trying. What we want to talk about is just the mods that I am using, not the polarities. First of all, enemy radar. You know I love enemy radar. For Nyx it is especially important because of the way it interacts with chaos and the way it interacts with absorb. We're going to talk about that later. If you don't like enemy radar, just get something like Energy Siphon or Corrosive Projection is what I would say for that tactical polarity aura. Then we have, in order of importance, we have Fleeting Expertise, which negatively impacts power duration, but we're gonna compensate that. Together with the Arcane Vespa helmet, which I do have, that gives us a nice, complete 75% power efficiency. If you don't have the Arcane Vespa helmet, consider doing a -1 max rank Fleeting Expertise and a -1 rank Streamline together for the 75% power efficiency, which is very important for our Nyx build today. Once you've secured that 75% power efficiency, you will want to first of all compensate the downside of Fleeting Expertise. I chose Fortitude because no beg your pardon, I chose Constitution because it gives us power duration and 40% knockdown recovery as a side benefit. It's an expensive mod and you can certainly make do with continuity, but I would not recommend narrow-minded. Constitution gives us a good 2% shy of continuity bonus, and the extra knockdown recovery is very useful. So that's why I picked that. And once you've done the power efficiency, once you've compensated the deficit to power duration, which please do remember mods stack additively with each other. So in total, this is just a total of minus 30% power duration. I have seen people make the mistake that thinking that mods stack with each other multiplicatively, but they don't. It's just additive. If you get a minus 60% and a plus 30% or plus 28%, it equates to a total of minus 32% power duration. The next thing you want to do after power efficiency and compensating the problems of fleeting expertise is get as much range as humanly possible or tenuously possible. And we're gonna get stretch, we're gonna get overextend. If there were another ranged mod, I would get that too. But one thing I want to address again, overextend, minus 60% power strength. Power strength only affects psychic bolts on Nyx and only affects the guaranteed damage of absorb. So if you absorb more damage than the guaranteed damage, you will do that anyway. So power strength does not really matter for Nyx. So we're lucky for that because we can make this really simple and awesome build because of that. But that being said, overextend, stretch, fleeting expertise, streamline if you don't have the Arcane Vespa helmet, constitution. That is all you really need for Nyx. All you really need to make the most of Nyx's abilities. On top of that, I personally chose to slot redirection and vigor for extra shields and a little bit of extra health, and fast deflection and fortitude for extra shield recharge. Why shields? Well, when you pop the absorb bubble, your shields will regenerate while you're in the absorb bubble. So focusing a lot on shields not only gives you a regenerative pool of effective HP, but it synergizes very well with absorb. Now, as I said, this is a very simple build, so feel free to do whatever you want. After you get power efficiency, compensate the duration, and get as much range as you can. We're going to talk about why those things are important for Nyx's abilities and how I recommend that you use Nyx's abilities coming up next. If you're an experienced player and you think that you got as much information as you want to get out of this video, feel free to stop watching, but I would argue that you continue watching. There will be nothing majorly important to see, so keep the audio in the background if you could. Okay, so first of all, the power duration issue. I said in previous videos that Nyx's abilities have a duration that is just right. Why am I sacrificing 30% power duration? Well, unfortunately, and I know I could compensate this completely with the use of another mod slot, but unfortunately, or fortunately really, getting 75% power efficiency on Nyx these days is incredibly recommended because of the way absorb works these days, because it taxes you energy for the damage that you absorb. So if you have more power efficiency, you can absorb more damage before you are forced to release it. It also compensates the energy per second drain from absorb and the initial activation cost of absorb. So that's why we want really large power efficiency, because otherwise, in the way Nyx's absorb used to work, just as a set duration, set power consumption, you didn't really need power efficiency that much because you got a lot of damage absorbed in the duration that it had, and you didn't really have to use it that often anyway. So Nyx was incredibly power efficient before, but now we are making her more power efficient to accommodate for the absorb changes. The power duration basically just affects mind control and chaos, but you can make do with recasting those. The reduced power duration for them is not that bad right now with this kind of build. Why range? Well, you cover more ground with chaos, for one thing. That's very important. But more importantly, it gives a lot of range to absorb, which otherwise doesn't have very good range, and you need all the range you can get. We're going to talk about that in my advice about using each individual skill. Now, as I said, feel free to slot anything you want instead of these 4 other mods, but keep in mind that these, getting as much range as possible, getting as much efficiency as possible, compensating the downside of fleeting expertise, is what you really want to do if you want to get the most out of your Nyx. Okay, so moving on. Abilities. We have Mind Control coming up first. Now, recent changes for Mind Control have stated that enemies Mind Controlled will buffer damage taken from friendly targets and have it applied at the end of the duration of Mind Control. Now, I don't know if I understood that incorrectly, but it doesn't work right now. Hopefully it gets patched later, and the intention is there, so it probably will get patched sooner rather than later, but for now, Mind Control still works as it used to work. There are some interesting things going on in the Design Council, and we might get a mutator for Mind Control soon that will increase the number of Mind Control targets to 2 or cause Mind Control proliferation. So that might be very exciting, coming up soon. We'll see. Either way, until then, Mind Control takes command of an enemy. You all know this. People don't usually use this because you have a tendency of getting your Mind Control target shot and killed by friendly players before you can actually do anything with it. But I have some advice for this. You don't really need a hard-coded fix for this, though it will be useful. I'm looking forward to it. Friendly 10 are not idiots. They're not mean either, but it's a matter of communication. The thing is that glowing targets used to mean that you could be either of one of several things. They could be molecular primed by Nova, in which case you want to shoot them. They could be affected by Will of Life by Trinity, in which case you wanted to shoot them because it was dependent on damage you did. Or it could be Energy Vampire by Trinity, which meant back then, when, well, a while ago, it meant that you wanted to shoot them then, before that change as well. And the only case you didn't want to shoot a target glowing in some other player's energy color was Mind Control. So people were just used to shooting things, and they had no reason to stop. However, if you really want to use Mind Control, there is a very simple fix that works, I find, about 2/3 of the time. Just at the start of a match, type in chat, "Hi, I'm playing as Nyx. My energy color is," whatever your energy color is. "If you see an enemy glowing in that color, please do not shoot it because it is mind controlled." It actually works 2/3 of the time, as long as, of course, you don't try to mind control something that is already getting shot at, or something that is high priority and heading towards getting a lot of ass whooping handed to it. So try to mind control things that are a little bit out of the way, and don't mind control things that are the only thing around, because if the only thing around is a mind control target, people will still shoot at it to clear the board, okay? Otherwise, mind control is very useful. You can control mini bosses, you can control healer agents, you can I think mini boss auras actually affect enemies after you mind control them. You might want to check the wiki on that, but I'm fairly certain that it is the case. At least they don't affect you anymore. You can mind control someone that is charging you in order to stun them, essentially, and get out of there. But there are many uses, and they are already documented. The thing that I wanted to get across the most is that communicate with your fellow players. Maybe if they don't speak English, you'll still have a problem. If not, it might actually work. Next we have Psychic Bolts. Psychic Bolt is the red-headed stepchild of Nyx's abilities selection. It was, it still is, yeah. It does damage. In order to boost Nyx's other abilities, you have to sacrifice Psychic Bolts. There is a mutator that lets you disarm people that get hit by psychic bolts. You might want to look into that. I don't have access to it yet, but it might be very useful. So with the extra slots you have in this build, try to check that out. Otherwise, psychic bolts, not that awesome. Third up, we have Chaos. Chaos was and is Nyx's signature skill. So there are some things that I want to address about using Chaos. Most of you already know how to use this skill, but it is very important when you use Chaos not to engage it too quickly or not to engage it randomly. That is why I like having enemy radar or enemy sense slotted, because it lets me know where there are enemies, if there are enough enemies to warrant a Chaos, and to know where I should be positioning myself. Lower this. Where I should be positioning myself in order to not get shot by the chaotic enemies. So enemy radar helps in that sense. You don't want to engage Chaos when there's just 3 enemies on the map. It's embarrassing. It's embarrassing. Trust me. At least when another Nyx player sees you do that, it's very embarrassing. Don't do it. Don't. Please don't. Okay. Otherwise, there is another thing I want to address about Chaos. For a long time on the wiki, there was mention of a synergy between Chaos and Molecular Prime. The synergy said, and I believe I can quote it, Chaos and Molecular Prime synergize because Molecular Prime increases the amount of damage that enemies take, so Chaos enemies will kill each other faster. This is theoretically correct and actually factually incorrect, because yes, they do take more damage, but they are also slowed, so they shoot less. So no, it doesn't work that way. However, Molecular Prime and Chaos do synergize well, in the sense that you pretty much stack 2 forms of crowd control. And the slow is great, the Chaos is great. When you have slowed Chaos enemies, they basically can't do anything at all. They just stare at each other longingly and point their guns about, and every once in a while they go pew, pew, pew. It's incredible. If you want to make it really embarrassing for your enemies, get a radial disarm focused Loki with maximum range and disarm them as well. Then you have enemies with stun batons waving them at each other in slow motion while very confused. It's just adorable. Oh my god. Yes. Now, Absorb, Nyx's ultimate. I've had some interesting things to say about this for a while, since July, but I keep recording this guide and then I don't release it. Hopefully I will release it this time. The thing I really wanted to say, first of all, is Sentinel damage is absorbed. That's very important, and I don't see it mentioned as often as it should be. Sentinel damage is absorbed. Your own Sentinel will have its damage absorbed if it shoots at enemies that it can see. So get an aggressive Sentinel and position yourself in range of it engaging some enemies, and you will see your absorbed damage just skyrocket. In fact, Absorb isn't that awesome just against enemies. There are actually surprisingly few situations in which enemies, other than Infested, because Infested, let me tell you, they do a lot of damage, but other than Infested, there are few situations in which enemies actually can pump enough damage into Absorb for you to kill them quickly. That skyrocketing damage that you see, that skyrocketing damage counter that you see, is actually your Sentinel pumping a huge amount of damage into your Absorb. It works with Death Cube and the Death Machine Rifle. It works with my favored Carrier and the Sweeper Rifle, Sweeper Shotgun. I personally favor the Sweeper for damage into Absorb, but you should experiment with this and find your own. Either way, this is one very good way to pump damage into your Absorb. Another really good way to pump damage into your Absorb is something that someone else showed me, and that is using explosive weapons that can do self damage. Now, you can actually do it with the Ogress. You can actually do it with the Ogress. It's not reliable enough, don't try it. It's funny though. I did it. It was really funny. You can do it with the Penta, but the Penta is not reliable either, in the sense that the grenades bounce. And they might not make it to the right place to get absorbed by your bubble. You can do it with a Stug. That's fairly easy, though with the Stug you also have a downside, because the pellets explode after a duration. It doesn't matter if you're ready or not, they explode. So you can actually end up killing yourself. I've found that the best solution for self-charging your absorb, other than your Sentinel of course, is the Castanas. So I'm actually going to show you a Castanas build that is focused primarily around getting the most charge into absorb. It's not supposed to be an overall Castanas build, but let's take a look. So I have maximum multi-shot, I have Hornet Strike, Magnum Force, and a lot of elemental damage mods. Now what this does, you have a clip of 2 shots on your Castanas. You can have a maximum of 6 projectiles out. Maximum multi-shot of plus 180% gives you a good chance of having all 6 projectiles out. That's the purpose of it. Hornet Strike and Magnum Force, of course, for boosting your damage. Magnum Force actually has a very small impact on Castanas' accuracy, almost negligible, so you can safely use it. And the rest is just for boosting your damage for the explosion of all 6 projectiles, or whatever projectiles you get out of multi-shot for emptying your 2-round clip. This will usually get you around, it gets me around 8 to 10k damage charged into my absorb. When I shoot these projectiles at the ground, activate absorb on top of them, and then detonate, because you can detonate from absorb. Yeah, so that is a very good way to charge your absorb. Castanas are also a good weapon, but if you start using Castanas a lot with your Nyx, word of warning, your Castanas can get stuck on your Sentinel. If they get stuck on your Sentinel and you blow them up, you will kill yourself even with just 1 shot stuck. So watch out for that. Another thing, if you are in the middle of reloading the Castanas, sometimes absorb will not engage, so if you do a quick 1-2 combo with Castanas and absorb, watch out for absorb not engaging, because you can kill yourself then as well. But these are kind of fringe cases, like oddities. Otherwise, Castanas is very reliable for engaging, charging up your absorb. Whoops, wrong button. Abilities. So these days, absorb, as you might know, is very useful for defensive purposes. You can engage it to defend the pod, defend your friends, defend yourself to allow your shields to recharge if you're in a difficult position. But because you can use it with Castanas and you can activate and deactivate it at will, you can also use it. It also brings to Nyx something that she never had before, which is the ability to do AoE damage in a roaming mission. So she is not confined to defensive missions anymore. You can make good use of Absorb and Castanas, the combo, in an exterminate mission, for example. If you see, especially if you use enemy radar, enemy sense, if you see a large cluster of enemies up ahead, you can just throw some Castanas ahead, sprint over to the landing spot of the Castanas, engage Absorb, detonate the Castanas, and instantly every enemy around there is dead, and you can just move on. You don't have to shoot people, and it makes things go much faster. It's really beautiful, actually. You will also want to consider if you need 1 Castana shot or 2 Castana shot, because absorb damage does cost extra energy, but that's tweaking stuff. One other thing I really want to draw attention to when using absorb is you will want to keep an eye on for terrain. I can't give you advice on this. I can only tell you that you should be keeping an eye on it. Every map is different, but you want to keep an eye on for situations where you can position yourself in sight range of in line of sight of your enemies, so that your sentinel can engage them, so that they can engage you and charge up your absorb. But you want to position yourself so that your the range of the absorb blast does not fall short, if you can visualize what I'm trying to say. So you want an open area that is large enough for all enemies coming in to see you and engage you instead of someone else, but that is small enough so that the blast of absorb does not fall short of enemies. Because if it does fall short of enemies, especially if you're fighting against Grineer and hit scan weapons, they will all be shooting at you. They will not get knocked back by the blast because it doesn't reach them. They will not get killed by the blast because it doesn't reach them. Their projectiles will reach you and you will just die as soon as you drop absorb, which is very unfortunate. So you really want to train yourself to keep an eye on for those positioning situations. Otherwise, all things that you probably already know about absorb. It knocks down enemies, so you can just use it as a quick knockdown, just engage and disengage. It works for that too. So all in all, I'm really happy where Nyx is right now, and she can do damage, she can do crowd control. Things are looking very good for Nyx. I think that's about it for now. That's about all I can say about her right now. If you have any other questions, please feel free to comment on YouTube on the VOD. I will try to address them as best as I can. But yeah, I really like working myself up with some Heroes of Might and Magic 3 and then doing these videos. I guess a little bit of talking practice helps. So hopefully you like me talking fast these days. Anyway, this has been it for my Nyx guide for Warframe. Thanks everyone for watching. Stay tuned for more. Bye for now.